if I told you that the words you speak could unlock doors to wealth, favor, and divine provision? Would you dare to speak them daily for just 7 days? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the very key that shifts your financial destiny. Words are not empty sounds, they are forces. They carry the vibration of faith or fear, lack or abundance. And the scripture is not a collection of old writings. It is a living law, a divine code, waiting for someone to speak it with belief. For 7 days, I invite you to speak this psalm aloud, and as you do, you align your life with the infinite supply of God. Why 7 days? Because persistence impresses the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind, once impressed with truth, will create doors, opportunities, and provision you never imagined. Do not think of this as a ritual. Think of it as planting seeds. Each day's declaration waters the soil of your life. On the 7th day, something begins to break. Chains of limitation are dissolved. Fear gives way to faith. And the financial breakthrough you've been waiting for starts to take form in the visible world. The psalm you will speak is not just poetry, it is law. When you declare, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," you are not begging God to give you what you lack. You are affirming that lack itself has no power over you. Want is dissolved because supply is ever present. When you say, "He maketh me to lie down in green pastures," you align with rest and abundance. The green pastures are not only meadows of peace, but fields of opportunity, prosperity, and provision. When you proclaim, "He prepared a table before me in the presence of mine enemies," know this: even in the face of debt, lack, or adversity, your table is being set with blessings. The so-called enemy is only an appearance, and appearances fade before truth. Speak this psalm for 7 days, not with vain repetition, but with expectation. Feel every word. Let it impress your inner world, because the outer world is only a reflection of the inner. Words are forces. This is not mere philosophy, it is spiritual law. Every word you speak carries energy, vibration, and power. When you release a word into the atmosphere, it does not vanish into thin air. It begins to shape circumstances, influence people, and attract experiences that align with the frequency of that word. To understand this is to understand the very foundation of creation, for in the beginning was the Word, and by the Word all things were made. When you speak, you are not simply communicating, you are creating. Your words are invisible builders, constructing the reality you will soon walk into. Most people underestimate the power of their daily speech. They speak carelessly, throwing words of doubt, lack, or fear into the air, not realizing that these words do not fall to the ground empty. Every, "I can't." Every, "I don't have enough." Every, "It's too hard," becomes a command impressed upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious accepts it as law. The subconscious does not question, it does not debate, it simply executes what it is told. So when you repeat words of defeat, the subconscious organizes your reality to confirm that defeat. But when you declare words of truth, of faith, of abundance, the subconscious becomes your silent servant, arranging circumstances to manifest prosperity and breakthrough. Think of words as seeds. Every time you speak, you are planting something in the garden of your life. Some seeds are fruitful, others are destructive. You may not see the harvest immediately, but in time, whatever you plant must grow. If you sow seeds of doubt, a harvest of lack will surely appear. If you sow seeds of fear, limitation will grow in your path. But if you sow words of faith, of divine supply, of confidence in God's provision, your harvest must be abundance. It is spiritual law, unchanging, eternal, and unfailing. The universe does not choose favorites, it only reflects the quality of the words you consistently speak. Scripture reveals this truth again and again. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. That is not symbolic language, it is a literal statement of spiritual principle. Your words have the power to breathe life into a situation or to suffocate it. You can speak abundance into your finances, healing into your body, harmony into your relationships, or you can speak lack, sickness, and discord. The choice is always yours. When you realize that your words are forces, you stop speaking idly. You become intentional, deliberate, and disciplined, because you know that every word is a decree shaping your reality. When you speak scripture, you are not repeating ancient poetry, you are activating divine law. The Psalms, the promises, the affirmations in holy texts are not meant to be read once and forgotten. They are meant to be spoken aloud, declared with conviction, impressed upon the mind and the atmosphere until they take root and bring forth visible results. When you say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," you are not wishing it were true, you are declaring a spiritual law that overrides appearances of lack. That spoken word begins to dissolve the very vibration of want in your life, because you have aligned yourself with the force of truth. Words are not only personal, they are creative commands in the spiritual realm. When you speak in faith, unseen forces respond. Opportunities appear, resources are drawn, and people come into your path, seemingly by coincidence, but in truth by divine appointment. What you speak is what you summon. Speak fear, and fear answers. Speak faith, and faith delivers. The world outside is simply the echo of the words you speak within. This is why repetition matters. One declaration may plant the seed, but repeated words water it, nurture it, and impress it deeply upon the subconscious mind. The subconscious is like fertile soil. It accepts whatever you plant, but it requires care, consistency, and persistence for the seed to grow strong. When you speak faith-filled words daily, you are training your subconscious to accept truth as its reality. The more you speak, the more you believe, and the more you believe, the faster the results manifest in the material world. Consider this: you can tear down years of limitation with a single word spoken in faith, if you persist. Words do not operate by chance, they operate by law. The same way gravity holds no exceptions, the law of words holds no exceptions. What you speak consistently must manifest, whether it is desirable or undesirable. If you continually declare lack, you cannot expect abundance to appear. If you continually declare abundance, lack cannot hold its grip. The law cannot be broken, it can only be applied correctly or incorrectly. So guard your tongue as you would guard a treasure. Let no idle, careless word of doubt escape your lips. If you must speak, speak life. If you must declare, declare truth. Use words as tools of creation, not weapons of destruction. You cannot afford to speak against yourself and then wonder why blessings seem delayed. Every word either adds to your storehouse or subtracts from it. Every word either opens a door or shuts it. Every word is either a key to freedom or a chain of bondage. The conscious use of words is the beginning of mastery. When you know that words are forces, you begin to speak with intention. You stop affirming the appearance of lack, and you begin affirming the reality of abundance. You stop giving voice to fear, and you give voice to faith. You stop repeating the world's limitations, and you start declaring divine possibilities. And as you continue, the world must bend to your words, because words are the first cause of all manifestation. Even silence is powerful, but silence must be filled with expectancy, not with fear. If you cannot speak words of faith, remain silent until you can. Do not pollute your atmosphere with words that contradict the truth you seek to manifest. Hold your tongue until your heart is filled with faith, then release words as arrows of light, piercing the darkness of lack and creating space for abundance to enter. When you truly understand this principle, you begin to see every conversation as a moment of creation. Every time you open your mouth, you are writing the script of your future. The words you speak to yourself, the words you speak to others, the words you declare before God, they are shaping tomorrow. Speak with care, speak with faith, speak with authority, for words are forces, and those forces, once released, cannot be recalled. They will go forth and accomplish that which you have spoken. 7 days of persistence carries a sacred weight that few understand. In the spiritual realm, consistency is the proof of faith. Anyone can declare a promise once or twice, but the soul that speaks it day after day is the soul that demonstrates belief, determination, and expectancy. Persistence is not about begging or striving, it is about impressing the truth upon the subconscious mind until it becomes the only reality you can see, feel, and accept. 7 days is not chosen by accident, for 7 is the number of completion, divine order, and fulfillment. When you speak a psalm for 7 days, You are aligning with divine law in a way that begins to reprogram your entire being. The subconscious mind is fertile ground, yet it does not judge what is planted there. It does not question whether the words you speak are true or false, it accepts them as fact. If you say, "I am always lacking," the subconscious accepts it and begins producing situations to match. If you say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," and you say it with persistence, the subconscious accepts that as fact as well and begins arranging circumstances to reflect abundance. Persistence is what drives the truth deeper into the soil of the subconscious, where it takes root and grows. Why 7 days? Because repetition for a set, sacred period creates momentum. Each day builds upon the previous one, each declaration etching the truth deeper into your inner world. By the 7th day, the old patterns of lack begin to crumble, and a new pattern of supply is firmly established. Think of it like striking a rock with a hammer. The first blow does not split it, nor the second, nor even the 5th. But with persistence, the pressure builds, until suddenly the rock gives way. The 7 days of declaring the psalm are the repeated strikes, and on the 7th day, the subconscious begins to yield, releasing new channels of supply. Persistence is not about convincing God to act. God has already provided. The table is already set, the supply already exists. Persistence is about convincing yourself, your inner world, your subconscious mind, that the supply is real, present, and available. The outer world only reflects the inner world. If within you hold beliefs of lack, no amount of outer striving can bring lasting abundance. But when within you hold the unshakable belief that God is your source and supply, the outer world rearranges itself to match that conviction. 7 days of persistence is the beginning of rewriting that inner belief system. Each day of speaking the psalm has a cumulative effect. On day 1, you are planting the seed. The soil of your mind receives it, though perhaps with resistance, for old weeds of doubt and fear are still rooted there. On day 2, you water the seed, and though the soil is still mixed with unbelief, the word of truth begins to push through. On day 3, the subconscious begins to yield slightly, old thought patterns weakening under the repetition of truth. On day 4, you begin to feel a shift, a lightness, a sense that something is moving. By day 5, faith grows stronger, expectation rises, and the subconscious starts to accept the new pattern. On day 6, the old weeds have nearly lost their grip, and on day 7, the truth bursts forth like a sprout breaking the surface, signaling that the harvest is inevitable. The power of 7 days lies not in the number itself, but in the discipline it demands. Many people speak a word once and abandon it when results are not immediate. They doubt, they waver, they undo their declaration with words of fear. But the one who persists for 7 days demonstrates commitment, focus, and trust. That persistence speaks loudly to the subconscious, for the subconscious is not moved by fleeting statements. It is moved by repeated, consistent impressions. Persistence is the language the subconscious understands. It is the same principle as training the body. 1 day of exercise does not transform your health, but repeated exercise, day after day, begins to build strength, endurance, and vitality. The subconscious mind is like a muscle, it must be trained through repetition. When you declare the psalm daily, you are exercising your faith, strengthening the muscle of belief, and training your subconscious to accept abundance as the natural state of your life. Persistence also breaks resistance. The old patterns of lack, fear, and doubt are deeply rooted. They may rise up to argue with you as you begin your declarations. You may hear inner voices saying, "This is foolish, nothing is changing, you are wasting your time." But each day of persistence weakens those voices. Each repetition of the psalm silences the lies of lack and replaces them with the truth of supply. Resistance cannot withstand persistence. The light of truth, spoken consistently, always dissolves the shadows of doubt. In these 7 days, something else occurs. Your emotions begin to align with your words. On the first day, you may speak the psalm mechanically, without much feeling. But as you persist, the words begin to sink deeper, and emotion begins to flow. Faith is not only spoken, it is felt. When the spoken word and the inner feeling unite, manifestation becomes inevitable. The 7 days allow this union to take place. By the 7th day, the words are no longer just sounds leaving your lips, they are living vibrations pulsing through your entire being. Persistence is also proof to yourself that you believe in the power of the spoken word. If you abandon the declaration after 1 or 2 days, you reveal to yourself that you doubt its effectiveness. But if you persist, you strengthen your conviction. Conviction is magnetic, it draws supply, favor, and opportunities. The universe responds to conviction the way metal responds to a magnet. When you persist for 7 days, your conviction deepens, and that conviction begins to pull into your life the very supply you seek. These 7 days are more than a spiritual exercise. They are a reordering of your inner world. They mark a shift from randomness to discipline, from doubt to certainty, from begging to declaring. They establish a rhythm of faith that echoes beyond the 7 days, setting a new pattern for your future. Persistence is not only about what happens during those 7 days, it is about the habit it creates, the momentum it builds, and the transformation it ignites within your subconscious mind. The subconscious is the silent servant, the unseen power that shapes your reality. It is moved only by repetition, by feeling, and by belief. 7 days of speaking the psalm is a sacred pattern that combines all three. The repetition impresses the truth, the emotion aligns with the words, and the belief begins to solidify. Once the subconscious accepts the truth of abundance, it must express it in your outer world. This is why persistence is so vital, and why 7 days is such a powerful commitment. When you commit to 7 days, you are not merely reciting words, you are rewriting the code of your life. You are reprogramming your subconscious to accept abundance as natural and lack as impossible. You are building momentum that carries beyond the 7 days, opening doors, dissolving barriers, and attracting supply in ways you could not orchestrate on your own. Persistence is the key that unlocks the subconscious, and the subconscious is the gateway through which divine supply flows into your experience. Affirmation over begging is the true key to unlocking abundance. When you say the words of a psalm or a declaration with authority, you are not pleading with God to do something for you, as if you were deprived and waiting for mercy. You are affirming what already exists, claiming what has already been provided, and standing in the truth that supply is your divine right. Begging suggests separation. It suggests that God is holding back, that blessings are scarce, and that you must convince the divine to act on your behalf. Affirmation, however, speaks from unity, from oneness, from certainty that what you desire is already prepared and waiting for you to recognize it. The difference is monumental, for begging keeps you in the vibration of lack, while affirmation lifts you into the vibration of abundance. When you affirm, "I shall not want," you are not making a request. You are establishing a fact. You are declaring that lack has no power in your life, that want is not your portion, that your needs are already supplied in full. Affirmation works because it impresses the subconscious mind with truth. The subconscious does not question whether you are worthy, capable, or deserving. It only accepts the words you give it as commands. Begging, on the other hand, only reinforces the subconscious with the idea that you are without, that you do not yet have, that you are still waiting. The subconscious then mirrors that belief into your outer life, and so the cycle of lack continues. Affirmation breaks this cycle because it assumes the blessing is already present. When you affirm, you are not looking to the future, you are standing in the now. I have supply now. I live in abundance now. God is my shepherd now. These words establish your reality in the present moment, which is the only place creation can occur. Begging projects your good into some uncertain future. Affirmation anchors your good in the now, where it can begin to manifest. To affirm is to agree with divine law. It is to align your words with the eternal truth that supply is infinite, unchanging, and available. You are not asking God to create something new for you. You are declaring that you already have access to what God has already made. Think of the difference between someone who says, "Please give me food," and someone who says, "The table is already set." The first lives in hope, the second lives in certainty. Affirmation is certainty. Certainty is magnetic. Certainty commands the subconscious to find evidence of what has been declared. Every time you affirm abundance, you are dissolving the vibration of lack. Lack cannot survive in the presence of consistent affirmation. Fear cannot hold its ground when faith-filled words are spoken repeatedly. Begging feeds fear because it implies that what you want is distant, withheld, or conditional. Affirmation feeds faith because it declares that what you want is here, present, unconditional, and already yours. When you say, "I shall not want," you are rejecting the idea that lack has power. You are canceling the subconscious belief that money is hard to come by, that opportunities are scarce, or that supply depends on chance. You are declaring a higher law, the law of divine provision. This declaration is not merely words, it is a command to your inner world. The subconscious, once impressed, will organize your outer reality to reflect it. It will draw opportunities, inspire ideas, and attract people who are aligned with your affirmation. Affirmation is not pretending. It is not self-deception. It is speaking truth that may not yet be visible to the natural eye, but is eternally real in the spiritual realm. Begging looks at appearances and declares them final. Affirmation looks beyond appearances and declares the unseen truth. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Affirmation is the spoken form of faith. It takes the unseen and declares it as seen, the invisible and declares it as visible. The psalm is a perfect affirmation because it speaks in absolutes. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It does not say, I hope not to want. It does not say, perhaps one day I will not want. It speaks as fact. Affirmations must be spoken as fact, not as hope. Hope looks forward. Faith looks at now. The language of faith is the language of certainty. Consider the difference in energy between these two statements. God, please provide for me. I am desperate and without. And God is my supply. My needs are already met. I live in abundance now. The first is heavy, filled with fear, and rooted in the vibration of lack. The second is light, filled with expectation, and rooted in the vibration of abundance. Both are words, but words are forces, and the forces they release are entirely different. The first creates more of what is feared. The second creates more of what is affirmed. Affirmation is also an act of gratitude. When you affirm that supply is present, you are giving thanks in advance. Gratitude is one of the highest vibrations, and it multiplies what it touches. Begging cannot access gratitude because begging sees only absence. Affirmation is gratitude because affirmation sees presence. Gratitude and affirmation are companions, working together to open the floodgates of abundance. When you affirm, you must feel the reality of your words. Words without feeling are like seeds cast on barren soil. But when you declare, I shall not want, and you feel the truth of it resonating within, the subconscious accepts it more quickly and more powerfully. The feeling of certainty, of joy, of gratitude amplifies the power of the affirmation. Begging rarely carries this feeling because begging comes from doubt. Affirmation carries feeling naturally because affirmation comes from faith. The more you affirm, the more your subconscious becomes saturated with truth. At first, the old beliefs may resist. You may hear whispers within saying, but you are still in debt, you are still struggling. These are echoes of the old program. Do not fight them, simply persist in your affirmation. Each time you affirm, I shall not want, the old program loses its grip. Each time you affirm, I live in abundance, the subconscious accepts it more deeply. Eventually, the old beliefs are dissolved completely, and the subconscious accepts only the truth. When that happens, your outer world must change to reflect it. Affirmation over begging is not only about speaking words, it is about adopting a new posture toward life. It is about shifting from desperation to confidence, from pleading to declaring, from hoping to knowing. It is about standing in the authority you have as a child of God, recognizing that you are not separate from supply, but one with it. When you affirm, you step into alignment with that truth. When you beg, you reinforce separation. Affirmation unites you with abundance. Begging keeps you bound to lack. The law responds to affirmation because affirmation is truth spoken with conviction. The law cannot respond to begging because begging is rooted in falsehood. the falsehood that you are without, that you are separate, that you must earn what is already yours. Affirmation acknowledges that abundance is your inheritance, and when you claim it, the law goes into motion to make it visible in your life. When you understand the difference between begging and affirming, you stop speaking from fear and start speaking from faith. You stop asking as though you are powerless and start declaring as though you are powerful. You stop hoping for supply and start living in the certainty of supply. Affirmation over begging is the bridge that carries you from lack to abundance, from waiting to receiving, from separation to union with the infinite provision of God. Green pastures are more than poetic imagery. They are symbols of rest, abundance, opportunity, and divine provision. When the psalm says, "He maketh me to lie down in green pastures," it is not describing only a peaceful meadow. It is describing a state of consciousness where all your needs are supplied, where opportunities flourish, and where you can rest in the certainty of God's care. To lie down in green pastures is to live in a state of trust, free from striving, free from anxiety, and free from the illusion of lack. It is to recognize that the universe is not barren or hostile, but fertile and overflowing with resources. The pasture is green, not dry, not withered, not empty. Green represents life, growth, renewal, and prosperity. The psalm does not say you are led to a desert, nor to a place of scarcity. It says you are led to green pastures, meaning there is already more than enough for you. Opportunities exist, resources exist, provision exists. The problem is not the absence of supply. The problem is often our blindness to it. Fear, worry, and doubt close our eyes to the green pasture and make us see only desert. Faith opens our eyes to the truth that the pasture is already before us. Rest is also vital in the symbol of the pasture. He maketh me to lie down. It is not about frantic effort, constant struggle, or restless labor. It is about resting in the assurance that provision is secure. This does not mean passivity. It means working from peace rather than from fear. When you lie down in green pastures, you are no longer driven by desperation, because you know your needs are met. You are no longer chasing opportunities as though they were scarce. Instead, you are guided to them effortlessly, because you trust that the shepherd is leading you. Green pastures also represent divine timing. A sheep does not choose the pasture, it follows the shepherd who knows where the grass is fresh, abundant, and nourishing. In the same way, when you trust divine guidance, you are led to the right place at the right time, where opportunities are ripe and provision is ready. You do not have to force doors open or chase after every possibility. The green pasture is prepared for you, and when you arrive, you find everything you need waiting. This is the essence of living by faith, not striving, but trusting that you are being led to abundance. The pasture is not only for survival but for flourishing. Sheep do not merely nibble to stay alive, they graze until they are full, content, and satisfied. Likewise, God's provision is not about barely scraping by. It is about fullness, about overflow, about having more than enough. When you speak the psalm and affirm that you are being led to green pastures, you are declaring that your life is not meant to be one of scarcity but one of sufficiency and satisfaction. You are aligning with the truth that there is more than enough supply for your needs and more than enough opportunity for your success. The color green is also associated with growth. Just as grass grows without effort, without striving, so too does supply come when you are aligned with divine law. You do not have to force the grass to grow. You only need to be in the pasture where it is already flourishing. In the same way, you do not have to force abundance. You only need to place yourself in the flow of divine provision through faith, affirmation, and expectancy. Green pastures symbolize the effortless nature of divine supply. It grows, it multiplies, it renews itself, and it never runs dry. Opportunities are also hidden in the symbol of the pasture. A pasture is a place of nourishment and rest, but it is also a place where growth occurs, where seeds sprout, and where new life emerges. In your own life, the green pasture may appear as a new idea, a new connection, a chance encounter, or an unexpected opening. These opportunities are not coincidences, they are prepared by divine order. When you rest in faith, you are more aware, more receptive, and more capable of recognizing them. Worry blinds you, but rest sharpens your vision. In the green pasture of consciousness, you notice doors opening that you once overlooked. The command to lie down in green pastures is also about trust. Sheep do not lie down unless they feel safe. If they sense danger, they remain standing, restless and anxious. For you to lie down in green pastures means that you trust God's protection, that you release fear of loss, that you surrender the illusion of insecurity. When you lie down, you signal to the universe that you know you are safe, supplied, and sustained. This posture of trust creates an atmosphere where abundance flows freely. Fear chokes supply, but rest invites it. Green pastures are not distant, they are present in your life now. They may not always appear as material wealth at first, but they exist in the form of peace, opportunity, creativity, and divine ideas. These are the seeds of visible prosperity. When you affirm the psalm, you awaken to the green pasture already prepared for you. Your mind shifts from scarcity to abundance, from struggle to rest, from fear to faith. In that shift, doors open, resources appear, and opportunities multiply. To live in green pastures is also to live in harmony with the natural flow of life. Just as sheep graze without fear of running out, you too must learn to trust that your needs will be met without exhaustion, without panic, without forcing. Supply is renewable, ideas are endless, opportunities are abundant. When you lie down in the green pastures of faith, you align yourself with this natural law of renewal. You stop fearing that resources will run dry, and you begin to trust in the infinite nature of divine provision. Green pastures symbolize the place where striving ends and trust begins. They are the reminder that you are not meant to wander in deserts of fear, but to rest in fields of abundance. They are the assurance that your life is guided toward provision, that opportunities are prepared for you, and that peace is your natural state. To declare that you are being led into green pastures is to declare that abundance, rest, opportunity, and divine timing are already working in your favor. When you live in this consciousness, every step is guided, every need is met, and every pasture is green with supply. Breakthrough in the face of adversity is one of the most powerful promises hidden within the psalm. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. This statement carries a law that transcends appearances and teaches that your blessings are not postponed until the opposition disappears, but that they manifest even while obstacles surround you. It is not a promise of deliverance after the storm has passed. It is the assurance of provision right in the middle of the storm. The table of abundance is not set in secret, away from challenges, but boldly in front of them, proving that nothing can stand between you and the supply that is yours by divine right. Adversity often tries to convince you you must wait, that you must first eliminate every problem, silence every critic, pay off every debt, or remove every obstacle before you can step into abundance. But this verse dismantles that illusion. It reveals that your breakthrough is not delayed by appearances of lack, fear, or opposition. In fact, the breakthrough is designed to shine most brightly against the backdrop of adversity. Just as light is most visible in darkness, blessings are most evident when they manifest in the very presence of challenge. The table represents provision, opportunity, fulfillment, and abundance. A table is not a place of scarcity but of satisfaction. It is a place of fellowship, nourishment, and overflow. To have a table set before you means that supply has already been prepared in advance. You do not have to create it, you only have to sit at it. The psalm does not say, "You prepare a table for me after my enemies are gone." It says, "Before me in the presence of mine enemies." This means your supply is not dependent on circumstances becoming perfect. Your supply is not withheld until the economy improves, until the debt disappears, or until the fear subsides. It is present now, even when lack, adversity, or opposition appears all around. The enemies in this verse are not limited to people. They can also be fear, doubt, debt, sickness, or limitation in any form. Whatever represents resistance to your good is an enemy. And yet, in the very presence of those enemies, the table is set. The abundance of God does not wait for permission from conditions. The law of supply is higher than appearances. When you speak this psalm, You are affirming that no enemy can prevent your breakthrough. You are declaring that provision is prepared, regardless of what challenges surround you. Breakthrough in the face of adversity requires a shift in perspective. Most people look at their problems and conclude that supply is far away. They believe that lack has power over them, that debt holds authority, that opposition has the final word. But the psalm reverses this. It says the table is already prepared in the middle of it all. The enemy is not greater than the supply. The challenge is not greater than the promise. What appears to be an obstacle becomes the stage upon which your breakthrough is displayed. Imagine being surrounded by adversaries who expect your downfall, yet right before their eyes, a table of provision is placed for you. This is not only about your blessing, it is about demonstration. It is about showing that divine law cannot be stopped by appearances. The very presence of enemies becomes the context for your testimony. Breakthrough is not merely personal, it is a demonstration of spiritual law in action. This principle also teaches that waiting for conditions to be perfect is unnecessary. If you wait until every problem is solved before expecting abundance, you will wait indefinitely. The psalm calls you to expect and receive your breakthrough now, even if the outer world has not yet shifted. Faith does not wait for evidence, it creates evidence. To declare that a table is prepared is to affirm supply in the midst of lack, opportunity in the midst of resistance, peace in the midst of chaos. This affirmation reprograms the subconscious mind, which in turn begins to produce circumstances that align with the declaration. Breakthrough in adversity is also about resilience. The subconscious mind, when fed with persistent affirmations, learns to stop reacting to appearances of challenge. Instead of seeing enemies as threats, you begin to see them as opportunities for the manifestation of truth. The greater the opposition, the greater the demonstration. Every obstacle becomes a stage for abundance to shine more clearly. This builds unshakable faith, because you learn that no appearance of adversity has the power to block what has already been prepared. Think of a feast laid out on a table. It is not hidden away in fear of the enemy. It is not delayed until the enemy retreats. It is boldly placed in the open, in full view, as if to say, "Nothing can touch this provision, for it is divinely ordained." This is how supply works. It is untouchable by external conditions. Debt cannot diminish it. Fear cannot shrink it. Doubt cannot erase it. When you affirm the psalm, you are reminding yourself that your provision is protected, secured, and ever present. This truth also dismantles the idea that you must fight for your blessings. The table is prepared for you, you do not have to prepare it yourself. You are not required to struggle endlessly, to compete desperately, or to strive from exhaustion. The table exists because divine supply is already complete. Your role is not to beg or fight, but to sit, to receive, and to trust. Even in the presence of enemies, your only responsibility is to partake of what has already been provided. Breakthrough in the face of adversity is also a lesson in inner peace. When you realize that your supply is secure even in the presence of challenges, fear loses its grip. You no longer panic when enemies appear, because you know the table is already set. This inner peace is itself a form of breakthrough, because it allows you to see clearly, act decisively, and receive without resistance. Fear clouds vision, but peace sharpens it. From this place of peace, you notice opportunities, divine ideas, and open doors that you might have missed otherwise. The declaration that a table is prepared in the presence of enemies also creates confidence. It tells the subconscious mind that nothing external can determine your supply. Confidence builds momentum. It attracts people, ideas, and opportunities that match your inner conviction. As your confidence grows, so does the visible evidence of breakthrough. The more you affirm this truth, the more you anchor yourself in the certainty that abundance is inevitable, regardless of appearances. This principle also frees you from resentment. Many people waste energy focusing on the enemies, the obstacles, the people who oppose them. But the psalm shifts attention away from the enemy and toward the table. It reminds you that your focus should not be on opposition but on provision. What you focus on expands. If you focus on the enemy, you strengthen the enemy. If you focus on the table, you strengthen your faith and attract your supply. The presence of enemies does not matter. What matters is the presence of the table. Breakthrough in adversity is the essence of spiritual victory. It proves that appearances are powerless in the face of truth. It demonstrates that the law of supply is higher than the law of limitation. It shows that abundance is not fragile, not conditional, not uncertain, but fixed, prepared, and untouchable. The psalm is not just comfort, it is instruction. It is the key to shifting from fear to faith, from struggle to rest, from waiting for conditions to change to receiving supply in the middle of them. When you speak it, you affirm not only that your breakthrough is coming, but that it is already prepared, already present, already unfolding. Even now, in the very face of adversity, the psalm closes with a promise so powerful that it transforms the entire outlook of life. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. These words are not simply a poetic ending, but a decree of permanence, a declaration that abundance, favor, and divine support are not fleeting, not temporary, not occasional, but constant companions. To understand this is to step into a life where every day becomes a demonstration of blessing, where goodness and mercy are not things you chase, but forces that pursue you. So many people live in fear of loss. They believe that prosperity, joy, or opportunity may appear for a season, but can vanish as quickly as it came. This mindset creates instability, because it roots expectation in chance rather than law. The psalm erases that fear by affirming a law of continuity. Goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life, not some days, not on lucky occasions, not only when you are strong, flawless, or deserving, but every day without fail, because goodness and mercy are not dependent on your performance but on divine principle. When you speak these words, you are affirming that you live under the constant companionship of divine favor. Goodness represents supply, opportunity, peace, and progress. Mercy represents forgiveness, restoration, and protection. Together, they form a shield and a flow. Goodness ensures that your path is filled with provision. Mercy ensures that even when you falter, you are restored. This combination makes breakthrough permanent because it removes both fear of lack and fear of failure. You are not at the mercy of chance, you are accompanied by mercy itself. Notice that the psalm does not say you must pursue goodness and mercy. It says they follow you. This means that wherever you go, provision and protection are behind you, ensuring you are never outside their reach. If you take a step forward, they step forward. If you turn aside, they turn aside. They are inseparable from your journey. This image alone dismantles the belief in scarcity because it shows that abundance is not stationary, not limited to certain conditions or places, but mobile, alive, and persistent. You carry it with you because it follows you. Breakthrough becomes permanent when you realize that supply is not a one-time gift but a continual flow. Many people think of blessings as events, something that happens once, like receiving a job, a payment, or an opportunity. But this psalm teaches that blessing is a state of being. Goodness and mercy are not isolated events, they are ongoing forces. They do not leave when circumstances shift. They do not diminish when challenges arise. They remain constant, ensuring that your life is marked by continuity of provision. This principle also reprograms the subconscious mind. When you affirm daily that goodness and mercy follow you, your mind begins to expect continuity rather than interruption. Instead of fearing that success will vanish, you begin to expect it to increase. Instead of worrying that joy is temporary, you expect it to deepen. The subconscious, once programmed with this belief, attracts conditions that align with it. You will notice opportunities flowing toward you more consistently, because your inner expectation is that good follows you at all times. Breakthrough that lasts is built on expectation. If you expect blessings to disappear, they often do, because your subconscious sabotages the flow. If you expect them to stay, they do, because your mind works in harmony with divine law. This is why the psalm is so critical. It gives the mind an image of perpetual blessing. Goodness and mercy not ahead of you where you must chase them, not hidden where you must search, but following you constantly, ensuring you cannot escape them. Mercy, in particular, ensures permanence of breakthrough. Without mercy, people live under guilt, regret, or fear of mistakes. They believe one wrong step can disqualify them from blessing. But mercy erases that fear. Mercy says that even when you falter, restoration is guaranteed. Mercy keeps the flow unbroken. You may stumble, but you will not be cut off from abundance. You may doubt, but you will not lose your place at the table. Mercy ensures that breakthrough is not fragile but secure. Goodness, on the other hand, ensures that your supply increases. It is not static. To be followed by goodness means that every day carries with it opportunities for more. More peace, more wisdom, more joy, more provision. Goodness does not diminish with time, it multiplies. To expect goodness every day is to open yourself to new channels of supply. The subconscious then begins to scan for these channels, noticing opportunities that might have been invisible before. The psalm also reveals that this continuity is not temporary but eternal. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The house of the Lord is not just a building or a location. It represents consciousness, the awareness of divine presence. To dwell in that house means to live in a state of constant awareness that you are connected to infinite supply. This consciousness is permanent because once awakened, it cannot be erased. You may forget temporarily, but the truth remains. To dwell is to remain, to be anchored, to be rooted. This permanence is what transforms breakthrough from a single event into a way of life. To dwell in divine consciousness is to live daily in awareness that supply is infinite, that provision is secured, that favor is constant. It is to stop fluctuating between fear and faith, between doubt and trust, between lack and supply. Instead, you live anchored in the certainty that goodness and mercy are your constant companions, and that you are forever housed in abundance. This principle also shifts how you handle challenges. When you know goodness and mercy follow you, you no longer fear adversity. You understand that even challenges must work out for your good, because mercy restores and goodness multiplies. You begin to see problems not as interruptions, but as opportunities for demonstration. You realize that nothing can separate you from the flow, because it is not external but internal, not occasional but constant. Living in this awareness creates peace. Anxiety dissolves because you know the supply is unending. Fear fades because you know mercy restores. You stop living in panic about the future, because you are assured that every day is already marked by goodness and mercy. Peace itself is a form of wealth, because it allows creativity, clarity, and joy to flourish. From peace, you attract even more goodness, because you are aligned with the flow rather than resisting it. This final promise of the psalm is the seal of permanence. It tells you that breakthrough is not only possible but inevitable, not only temporary but enduring, not only an event but a lifestyle. By affirming that goodness and mercy follow you, and that you dwell in the house of the Lord forever, you are anchoring your subconscious in a vision of unbroken abundance. You are training your mind to expect continuity, to expect supply, to expect restoration, and to expect that no matter what arises, the flow cannot be cut off,